Welcome back. So 5 municipalities which owe water boards will have their funding halted by National Treasury. The defaulting councils include Thabazimbi, Merafong City, Matjhabeng, Khanye and Kopanong. Deputy Water and Sanitation Minister Seitlholo joins us now for more on this. DM, a good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to get to just perhaps starting with how we got to this point, that we decided that this is the route we need to go, stop the funding that is going into these 5 municipalities. What exactly was going on in those municipalities?
No, good evening, Naledi, and good evening to all the viewers at home. When we took office, the debt to water boards was one of the key issues that was raised by the department for the attention of the ministry. And we needed to move with speed under the leadership of the Minister, Matjhabeng, to try and facilitate a process in which we could be able to intervene so that we avoid another Seitlholo situation where it was decommissioned in 2022 because of the debt that was owed to it by various municipalities in the Free State and in the Northwest, respectively. And ever since we took office, the minister and ourselves have been engaged with the premiers, mayors, municipal managers of the respective municipalities to engage on how we can be able to begin a process where these municipalities can come into an agreement with the water boards, a repayment agreement with the water boards. But of course, there are municipalities, for example, Makwasi Hills, which were disputing the debt that they owed to the now Magalies Water Board, which obviously took over from Seitlholo. And they find themselves in a position where, they are disputing that and they do not want to then proceed with any payment to the water boards until such time that we're able to then resolve on the issues of the previous historical debt. So these engagements with the minister, ourselves as deputy ministers, with the premiers, mayors of the respective municipalities, was essentially really the municipalities to sit around the table with the water boards, engage one another, come up with a payment a method in terms of how much, or a payment agreement rather, in terms of how much, making sure that they're able to service their debts. Unfortunately, some of the municipalities, as the same as those that you've highlighted, have been unfortunate in that there is no such an agreement that has come to the fore, and also the financial situation of those municipalities is such able to service the current debt that they have, with Matjhabeng obviously being the biggest owner to the Vaal Central Water Board with just over 7 billion. So we got to where we got here today because of the endeavors of the Department of Water and Sanitation in terms of the Sunday night meetings that we're having with the Ministry of Water mayors to really facilitate a process that we don't see another Seitlholo situation.
Okay, but I need to ask you this, because one could argue that what's happening here is perhaps cutting off your nose to spite your face, because you cut off the funding going into municipalities because they owe water boards. So the question is, the concerns around where the municipalities then must receive the money to pay these water boards.
It is essentially about the withholding of the equitable share, so that the municipalities can be able to prove to National Treasury that they are able to begin to service their debt. Yes, what they get in terms of equitable share does not come anywhere close to the debt that they owe to the water boards. But during the meetings that we've had with National Treasury through our Director General, Dr. Sean Phillips, the communication, Naledi, was that municipalities need to be able to convince us and National Treasury that they are able to service their debt, that they are able to be consistent in paying their debt, so that National doubt that you're able to service your debt. And as such, as National Treasury, we are then going to try and in any way, shape or form, write off some of the debt that you are owing to these water boards, so that you can be able to find yourself in a position where you find some ease in terms of your finances. The reality, however, Naledi, is that remember that it's not all municipalities that are owing water boards like Magalies and Vaal Central. However, if it's one municipality that is going to lead to the collapse of that particular water board, it is not only that municipality that is going to be affected by the collapse of that particular water board. It means all municipalities in the Northern Cape, in the Free State, in the Northwest that are dependent on Seitlholo and Vaal Central will be wholly affected by that particular collapse of that particular water board. So this isn't only a situation where the Department of Water and Sanitation has engaged National Treasury to say withhold this debt, don't give it to these municipalities. We are saying the municipalities need to be able to be in a position where they can show beyond reasonable doubt that they are able to service their debt by entering into agreements with the water boards and being able to then proceed from there onwards. But as I said, it has not been something that has been sustainable with some of the other municipalities, with Matjhabeng in particular, having indicated that, well, we just don't have the money. We aren't collecting enough, and therefore we are unable to then service the debt that is required per month in order to be able to meet that requirement by National Treasury and ourselves at the Department of Water and Sanitation. So we can't be in a situation where we allow municipalities to go scot-free. And we've indicated as the Department of Water and Sanitation that there are things that can be done in the immediate in order for municipalities to be able to generate revenue from the sale of water and be able to make enough to be able to pay the water boards that supply them with bulk infrastructure. And of course, with saying that, Salga raised another issue to say municipalities like Matjhabeng, like other municipalities in the state, are wholly indigent, and there are South Africans who are unable to pay for services. But that is why we've got indigent registers. That is why we've got the equitable share from National Treasury in order to be able to, of course, supplement those and assist those who are unable to pay for the service. But at this point we are unable to be in a position in good conscience where we do not take any decisive steps to allow municipalities to find themselves in a position where they are able to come into an agreement with the water boards on how they're going to particularly service their debts.
Yeah, because these numbers are, it's big numbers that we're looking at here, right? You've got Merafong City, Victory Khanye, or Victory Khanye rather, owing 1.4 billion rand. That's what's owed to Rand Water. 216 million rand that's owed by Thabazimbi municipality to the Magalies Water Board. And I'm thinking now about, so hold on, Matjhabeng and Kopanong also owing the Vaal Central Water Board 7.8 billion rand. That's long-term payment plans there that we're looking at. So as we give you those numbers, if you are a resident of Matjhabeng, Kopanong, Thabazimbi, Merafong, and Victor Khanye, and you're listening to this discussion, what should you be concerned about where service delivery is concerned, and particularly access to clean running water in those communities?
Well, the issue is a historical one, particularly as it relates to the issue in and around infrastructure maintenance. We know that some of these municipalities are experiencing what we call non-revenue water of highest percentage. We're taking here 39, 40%, even 70%. Those are astronomical amounts. This is water that essentially is provided by the water boards to the municipality for purposes of reticulation, but is lost to the ground. So it means it does not get to the intended recipient. What this means is that if the water is not getting to its intended recipients, it means that the municipalities are unable to then generate any revenue from it. If the billing of the municipality is not correct in as far as the water is concerned, if there's no meters that are able to obviously give an indication of how much the municipality should actually be getting from the sale of water, it means that they are unable to actually generate enough to be able to pay the water boards. So this is a historic infrastructure maintenance and operation challenge that municipalities are faced with. Yes, of course, there are municipalities that, like Matjhabeng, for example, which was a very big mining, which involved a lot of mining in and around that area. Many of those industries have, of course, closed down, which means that they are unable to then generate enough in terms of revenue. But then it doesn't also then excuse the fact that many of the municipalities are still losing 40, 50, 70% of the water that they receive from water boards. So, firstly, municipalities have to be wholly focused on fixing the leaks. Fix the leaks, know where the leaks are, Make sure that you're able to then get infrastructure that is according. I mean, there are still municipalities that are still dependent on asbestos pipe, and we know that asbestos is wholly unsustainable. It's been even banned by this in this country. So it's not something that you can fix. It's something that you need to replace, which is a big problem and a big crisis that we're facing across many municipalities in South Africa. Secondly, we know that there are illegal connections. We know that there are people who are connected illegally to these pipelines. And those are people that, of course, are then infringing upon the rights of other people who are supposed to now pay for water that they spend days, weeks, and months without. So these are the immediate steps that the municipality, together with communities, can be able to take in order to make sure that whatever the bulk of water that they're given by the water boards, they're able to actually get to the intended recipients, and that those intended recipients are able to then pay for the water. And where there are indigent households, that there is a register that is kept of indigent households on a yearly basis, so that the municipality knows how many of the people in the municipality are unable to obviously afford to pay for services. These are some of the things that can be done now. These aren't things that are going to take 2 years. These are things that can be done now, and these are things that can fundamentally assist in making sure that the municipality is able to generate as much revenue as they can to settle payment agreements with water boards and begin paying off their debt. Because once they begin to do that, National Treasury will look at their record, and then they can then engage National Treasury on a way forward in terms of reducing their debt, particularly from the context of areas.
You know, there's a lot. I mean, you've said a lot about what needs to happen here and where access to water has gone wrong in these municipalities. But I want to bring it home for a moment, because one thing that we obviously need to recognize, DM, is that the right to water is a constitutional right? I mean, with Section 27 of the Constitution, guaranteeing the right of everyone to have access to sufficient water. Are you concerned of a constitutional crisis in these 5 municipalities?
Well, the simple answer is yes. Or I suppose the worrying answer is yes. But I want to also say that, Naledi, what concerns me in particularly what came out of the presentation that was made by SALGA during the Portfolio Committee meeting of the Department of Water and Sanitation yesterday, where there were presentations made by COCTA, where there were presentations by SALGA, where there were presentations made by the National Treasury, as well as ourselves as the Department of Water and Sanitation. It did not seem to me, it did not come out to me very clearly that SALGA was actually able to take the responsibility and say, yes, these municipalities have failed somewhere. In fact, it seemed as if SALGA wanted to make this a national issue. It was even said by one of the representatives from SALGA that, they are on the ground, as if to suggest that we are not on the ground as the Department of Water and Sanitation, as National Treasury, or other related departments such as COCTA. And for me, I found that very worrying. Because if we've got an association that is going to come and defend the collapse of municipalities, whom the Auditor General has told us in no uncertain terms that municipalities in South Africa are in a crisis, and then to have the association that is supposed to be working with us as the Department of Water and Sanitation, as COCTA, as National Treasury, to be able to resolve on some of the solutions that we can take in unison, but to not speak about those particular crises that are being faced by municipalities. That, for me, was fundamentally problematic. Because as the National Department of Water and Sanitation, you mentioned Section 27 of the Constitution. Remember, we are the regulator in the space, and we, through our water boards, provide bulk infrastructure and bulk water to municipalities, which in turn then they have to pay for the water. We cannot take over that constitutional mandate from municipalities of Section 27, because they are mandated to make sure that once the water comes from the water boards, Rainwater, Magaliesval Central, it's their responsibility to make sure that it reaches households. The Department of Water and Sanitation can, in any way, shape, or form, enter into a space where they take over the mandate of local government. But it does not stop the Department of Water and Sanitation, because I would imagine people at home that are watching would argue that the ball stops with us. The ball is in our court to make sure that we're able to assist. That is why we started this process of engaging municipalities, including premiers and mayors, so that we find sustainable solutions to these challenges. But if municipalities are not going to find themselves in a position where they are effectively able to stop the leaks, remove illegal connections, fix their bidding systems, then I'm not too sure how, as a Department of Water and Sanitation, we can enter into that space.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm worried that these municipalities will not be able to do that.
Yeah, because I'm looking at, how long of an issue this has been in some of these municipalities. Thabazimbi, for instance, just last year already. So this is long-standing problems around access to water. And again, Deputy Minister, I speak from the perspective of the residents. And obviously you will talk about the department's interactions with these municipalities, and then the Department of Finance then needing to step in and take a decision. But for the residents, it's a daily struggle. Last year, the Freedom Front Plus, looked to lodge a complaint with the Human Rights Commission. Because again, I come back to rights. So just as we wrap up, Deputy Minister, for those that are in these municipalities, have continued to struggle with water, if you would please speak directly to them right now about when they're going to see the day that they open their taps and water comes out, because certainly the tug of war between the various government spaces is a lot, and you've said all of it, but for the residents, it's a simple need. Open the taps, give us water.
You're quite correct, Naledi, and the Department of Water and Sanitation, under the leadership of Minister Phemi Majodina, and we've been very passionate about the issue of engaging municipalities and making sure that we're able to find long-lasting solutions to these issues. But as I said, some of these issues are historic, as you pointed to Thabazimbi, for example. The first thing that I need to mention, Naledi, from a legislative framework point of view, is that the Department of Water and Sanitation currently has made amendments to the National Water Act, but particularly in terms of the Water Services Act. Now, you would know that the department runs the blue drop, green drop, and the no drop reports that were obviously released in 2022. Yes, ma'am.
No, I'm listening, yes.
Am I back?
Yes, you've been on the whole time. I'm listening to you, DM. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. Yes, so we've made amendments to the Water Services Act, particularly in relation to the failure of water services authorities, that is municipalities, wherein the minister can make greater intervention based on the outcome of those particular drop reports to then indicate that where a water services provider has failed, that particular water services authority would need to appoint a licensed water service provider. Now, I'll make an example with this. In Mfuleni, for example, the department is currently undergoing a Section 63 Water Services Act intervention in that municipality, with Rand Water as the implementing agent, wherein a special purpose vehicle will be established, wherein Rand Water, as a competent provider, will take over the running of the water and sanitation services of Mfuleni local municipality. One of the committee members yesterday made the point to say, can we not extend it to other municipalities across the country? And of course, that is something that we're looking at when we hope that we'll be able to finalize the approval of those particular amendments of the National Water Act as well as the Water Services Act, in order to be able to give the minister greater intervention powers when it comes to the failure of water services authorities. And that's the first thing that we can do from a legislative point of view. But as I've said, Naledi, we are consistently continuing to engage with the municipalities to make sure that we even offer them technical support where it is possible. And we also provide grants. We provide our RBIC and our WISIC grant, that is the Regional Bulk Infrastructure Grant, as well as the Water Services Infrastructure Grant to municipalities. In this financial year alone, we've provided over 11 billion in terms of financial support to municipalities. The problem, Naledi, and I want to make this point very clear to communities who are watching at home, the money doesn't often go to where it's intended. We know from experience, we know from reports released by the Public Protector, by the Auditor General, that many of the municipalities across the country that are battling currently to even provide and are dependent on water tankers, they use their municipal infrastructure grant to pay for salaries, for example. When we intervene as the National Department of Water and Sanitation and we fix some of the infrastructure, we get service providers who are able to do the job. It takes a year, 2 years, we're back to square one again. So this is a greater issue of governance at a local level.
Yeah.
It is about our municipalities, do they have the capacity to actually undertake this particular mandate? And if not, we're going to have to start having a conversation on how we can be able to, I don't know, get that mandate back so that we don't find ourselves in a far worse crisis than we are in right now.
Yeah. I'm going to make a call out to residents in Matjhabeng, in Kopanong, in Thabazimbi, in Merafong City, and in Victor Khanye. If you are in those communities, and I'm keen to hear from you what you make of the situation where water is concerned, send us a WhatsApp, 072 110 5584. We want to hear what you make of the availability of water as Treasury gets ready to stop funding to your 5 municipalities. But thank you so much for the time. Deputy Minister there, of Water and Sanitation, Seitlholo, speaking to us. Still to come, we look at municipalities in the Northern Cape, which seem to be struggling